So if he attacks, I could false edge steel wall parry, right? Or if he attacks, I could true edge steel wall. The way that I prefer it is when he attacks to steel wall parry by just bringing my tip up in a cutting motion. One reason I like to steel wall parry like this is if he tries to wind around my sword, he has a fatter radius to try and get around, essentially a bigger wall to get around. If I parry with my true, then it's only this thin. It's a lot thinner, so it's easier to bend around. Same with the false. And the thicker fort you have, the bigger radius they have to move to get around. So for this technique, what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of be doing the same parry where we're attempting this cut, but instead of parrying with our sword, we're going to parry with our offhand or our dagger. So go very slowly. He attacks, I'm going to step back and cross parry and just raise up for this cut, cut the arm while cutting into his sword, and then having more of an area for them to have to try to wind around, because now they've got the offhand and they've got the thicker fort, okay? Now technically, since we are cross parrying, like in other cases, if you weren't trying to cut the hand, you could still parry with the true or the false if you want to, because you're not trying to get that thickness of the blade. But this helps you because it's getting you better at your cutting motion and your parry motion at the same time, and your cuts and your should be the same motion. So when he attacks, I'm just going to cross parry and I'm going to cut the arm up. Now, like I had said before, whether they thrust palm up or palm down does matter on this drill. And most people thrust the same way they hold their sword. So most people that hold their sword in a palm down guard thrust palm down, and most people that hold it in a palm up guard thrust palm up. So when he throws this one, for the sake of the drill, this is going to be to counter the palm up thrust. So he goes, I step back and I cross parry and I will cut. Now it can work also against palm up, or sorry, against palm down and palm neutral fencers. If you thrust palm down, okay, you can still do the same, but it's a bit harder to hit that outside of his arm because the way the arm is turned. If it's turned palm up, then you will have this little bit here. When it's turned palm down, you don't have it on that side. Instead, you have that area to hit on the inside, which the next parry we're doing when he attacks would be, if he attacks palm down, then I'm parrying here, and then you have that part exposed, okay? So whether you cross parry or outside parry will be dependent on whether he's thrusting palm down or palm up when you are trying to get this specific cut. Does that make sense? So one more time for the drill. He attacks, step back, cross parry, and raise up with that cut the arm, and transition to that parry here. Okay? One reason I like to do this is because then you can go straight to your thrust after taking his arm. So he attacks, boom, I get that cut, I gain the blade, and then I close it. Okay? And we'll be mutating that, but for now, he attacks, a simple cross parry, palm up cut, gain with your blade, and retreat. One thing to note on that drill that we were just doing is, go ahead and attack me, is when they attack, okay, and you are trying to hit that exposed limb, the more you cross parry over, the more it will expose them. But the more it will also expose yourself because you're also going farther for if you mess up. So make sure when they attack, you have that capture, and if you need to, push that extra distance to get that arm exposed even more. Does that make sense? Okay, and same for when we're attacking.